All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle a concept that sparks some of the most intense debates in the entire financial independence world. It's called the middle class trap. So, what's the deal? Is this a real financial danger you need to worry about? Or is it just a myth?
So picture this. You've done everything right. I mean, you've followed the playbook to a T. You bought the house, you've been maxing out your 401k for years, and your net worth statement, it looks fantastic. But then when you actually start thinking about using that money, to maybe retire at 45 instead of 65, you run into a wall. It suddenly feels like all your wealth is just out of reach, like it's trapped behind a sheet of glass.
And that's the feeling, right? That's the core anxiety of this whole thing. You're what they call a paper millionaire. You are rich on a spreadsheet, but when it comes to actual cash you can spend today, you're kind of broke. And the irony is just brutal. The very assets that were supposed to build your freedom are starting to feel like the bars of your own prison. Okay, so let's put a formal definition on this so we're all on the same page. The middle class trap is really all about a liquidity crisis. It's a situation where, yes, you have a high net worth, but almost all of it is locked up tight in illiquid things, namely your home equity and, of course, those retirement accounts with the big flashing warning signs that say do not touch until you're 59 and a half. So let's start with one side of the debate. This is the argument that says, hey, this trap is absolutely real. It's not just a feeling you have. It's a structural flaw in the conventional financial advice we've all been given. To really get this, we've got to go back in time a little bit. According to economist Teresa Ghilarducci, the 401k, which was created back in the early 80s, was never meant to be for you and me. It was designed as a supplemental plan, a little extra something for high-paid executives who already had great traditional pensions. It was never designed to be the one and only retirement plan for the average person. Kind of crazy how this tool for the rich somehow became the main option for everyone else. And this right here, this shows the problem perfectly. I mean, you see that number on the left, $1.5 million in net worth? That sounds incredible. You think you are totally set for life. But then you look at the breakdown. Almost all of it, like 97%, is tied up in home equity and retirement accounts. So, what can you actually get your hands on today to live on without taking on debt or getting slapped with penalties? Look over to the right. $50,000. That's it. That is the trap in a nutshell. So, your money is basically locked in a couple of key places. There's your home equity, which is great, but you can't pay for groceries with it unless you literally sell your house or borrow against it. And then there's the big one, your 401ks and traditional IRAs. They are governed by rules designed specifically for a traditional retirement age, not for somebody who's trying to get out of the workforce at 45. Okay, but that is only one side of the story. Now let's flip the coin and explore the other argument, that this so-called trap isn't a trap at all, but really just a big misunderstanding. This perspective argues that the system itself isn't the problem. The problem is a lack of financial education. They say the trap only really exists if you don't know about the perfectly legal, if a little complex, tools that are designed to help you get your money out early. The trap only works if you don't know where the keys are hidden. Now, the most popular of these escape hatches is the Roth conversion ladder. Here's how it works. First, you convert or move some money from a traditional pre-tax account over to a Roth IRA. Now, when you do that, you have to pay income tax on that money for that year. Then, the most important part, a 5-year clock starts ticking. After those 5 years are up, you can withdraw the amount you converted, the principal, completely tax-free and penalty-free, no matter how old you are. Now, the key here, and it is a big one, is planning. This is not something you can just decide to do the day you quit your job. You have to build this ladder in advance. As you can see on this timeline, if you want $50,000 to live on in year 6, you need to have made that conversion way back in year 1. It's a rolling system you set up to fund your early retirement years in advance. And this quote from the Choose IFI podcast really sums up this whole myth argument perfectly. They're basically saying that having a high net worth, no matter where it is fundamentally a good problem to have. It's a position of immense strength. And framing it as a trap just creates a bunch of unnecessary fear that might even stop people from using these powerful wealth-building tools in the first place. Okay, so we've got two clear camps here. One says it's a trap, the other says it's a puzzle you can solve. So why the intense disagreement? To understand that, we need to deconstruct what they're really arguing about. And it turns out, they're not really arguing about the rules of a Roth ladder or the tax code. They're talking past each other because they're looking at the problem from 3 completely different perspectives: accounting, psychology, and philosophy. First, let's talk about the accounting, the numbers.
Your total net worth is kind of a vanity metric. What really matters is your investable net worth, the assets that can actually make you money. And here's a critical mistake people make. You can't double count your home equity. It either lowers your expenses by getting rid of a rent or mortgage payment, or you can sell it and invest the cash. It cannot do both. The trap feels real when people mentally add their home equity to their investment portfolio, which gives them a false sense of how close they are. Okay, next up is psychology, which honestly might be the most powerful force at play here in making this trap feel so real. Think about this. The government doesn't call it a 10% early access fee, they call it a 10% penalty. That one word is so powerful. It triggers a bias in our brains called loss aversion. It makes it feel like you've done something wrong, like you failed or are being punished, even if paying that 10% is the most logical, rational price you could pay to buy your freedom a decade ahead of schedule. And finally, this entire debate really just comes down to philosophy. It comes down to asking yourself, what does retirement even mean to you? Think about it this way. If the only thing standing between you and leaving a job you absolutely despise is a 10% hit on some of your retirement funds, is that really a penalty, or is it simply the price of the ticket to freedom? When you reframe it as a cost that you can choose to pay, it transforms from a punishment into a powerful tool. So if the goal is to avoid feeling trapped in the first place, what are the actual tools you can use to build more financial flexibility and liquidity right from the start? Here's a quick look at your toolkit. We've talked a lot about the Roth ladder, but the simplest option is just a standard taxable brokerage account, no age restrictions at all. You can also withdraw your direct contributions to a Roth IRA anytime you want, tax and penalty-free. You can borrow against your house for cash with a HELOC, or you could explore building other income streams. The point is, there are multiple paths. You have options to create the flexibility you need. And this brings us to the most important part of all, figuring out how to put all this together for yourself. So when it all comes down to it, the middle-class trap isn't some destiny you're locked into. It's really less of a prison and more of a complex puzzle. And the way you solve it has to be unique to you. Are you a super optimizer who loves the complexity of a Roth ladder? Or would you rather just keep it simple and build a giant taxable account, even if it's a little less tax efficient? There's no single right answer here.
Ultimately, all the debates you see online, they don't matter nearly as much as your own private decisions. A financial plan isn't about finding the one right answer from some expert. It's about making a series of intentional choices that align your money with the life you want to live. So the final question isn't whether the trap is real. The real question you should be asking yourself is, what kind of freedom are you actually saving for? And what price are you willing to pay to get there?